Howdy, folks. Welcome to Redneck Gone Green. I am not David Cobb, but you may or may not know me as Jack Rabbit. That's who I am. Welcome back. Welcome. If this is your first time here, I'm happy to have you. Today, we're going to be talking with the wonderful Margaret Kimberley from Black Agenda Reports about the upcoming elections. Figured, why the heck not? Everybody else is talking about it. It's making me crazy. I may as well make you crazy too. And so I'm very happy to start the show off, bringing on the lovely Margaret Kimberley. Margaret, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It's so great to be with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you too. I'm always happy when you come on. So obviously, folks, David is out. He is in Barcelona right now at some kind of, I think it's some international congress on municipalism, I believe, which is pretty awesome. We've talked about municipalism on the show before, but that's fun stuff. That's good stuff to talk about. And today we're going to talk about stuff that's a lot less fun. We're going to talk about this election coming up. So, Margaret, I want to get your thoughts just to start off with. What are you thinking about this upcoming presidential election?
Well, now it's exactly a week away. What a strange year it's been. Biden stepping out of the campaign, Trump being shot at. A Democratic nominee nobody voted for. So it's been quite a year. But I think what we've seen is what we usually see in presidential elections, a lot of pretense. It's what I'm writing about in Black Agenda Report this week. A lot of fake drama, a lot of virtue signaling, especially on the part of liberals who claim to care about any number of things that they don't really care about. A nominee who Kamala Harris seems singularly unimpressive to me. This is a person with no political skill, no rapport with people, who has chosen to emphasize her connections with Republicans when she desperately needs Democrats to turn out for her. So some of it is the usual, and some of the things are quite unusual.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff. We have some media to kind of go over that stuff a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it really did seem like, they were hoping that Kamala was going to be able to just ride the wave of joy, and she was just going to ride that right into the White House. I think that, there was this big bump that she had when she first came on the scene, and people were all excited about her. And it really did seem, I mean, like I was convinced that she was actually really going to do it, which, Margaret, I really didn't believe, honestly. Because we were right there. I'm old enough to remember that she did not win a single primary, a single delegate, right?
Yes, not one. And she was, she's been promoted. She's one of these people who unfortunately has been promoted beyond her skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So she has these rich friends who, give her millions of dollars and tell her she can be a senator or she can run for president. Or when she, we all know about the word salads and the nervous laugh. That's a sign of someone who's unsure of themselves.
Absolutely.
And so she's allowed herself, she's clearly ambitious, but she's allowed herself to be at the top of the ticket where she does not function very well. So she has these, embarrassing moments trying to connect with Black people. Instead of just talk about the things people want to talk about, she claims she cleans her collard greens in the bathtub, which everybody laughed at. It was like, remember Hillary saying she had hot sauce in her purse?
In her
Something
purse,
about Black people and food that, engenders these foolish statements. And she changes her accent depending on who she's talking to. She was in a church and she was trying to sound like a Baptist.
Oh my God, that was so, Margaret, that was so
embarrassing. She's not. Just be
so
who you are. And the other problem she has is that she doesn't talk about the things that are of interest to Democratic Party voters. She tepidly claimed a few days ago that She would raise the federal minimum wage. That I haven't heard anything about it, but I still see pictures of her with Liz Cheney. Um, so the Democrats are, well, we have to talk about who controls both parties. They're controlled by oligarchs, by very wealthy people. They determine what is and isn't going to happen. And they have determined they don't want a federal minimum wage to go up. That's why it didn't go up under Biden. So you're left with fluff and foolishness, but she cannot pull that off. So she's a hollow woman, and it shows. And she could win. I've gone back and forth about who I think is going to win. I'm actually not sure, but I won't be surprised if it's Trump. I can just say that.
No, I agree with you. I think that it seems very it seems very up in the air right now, but that makes me feel like it's leaning in the direction of Trump, because he needs to win the swing states, and that's where it seems to me that's most likely that it's going to happen. I feel like the way that things have gone over the past few years, or the past few elections, its polling seems to be almost irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? So I do question that, like, wondering about the polls, because I did just recently take a look at the Real Clear Politics. They're really good for polling data, and they do a great job aggregating it. And like, Trump is literally, it's within the margin of error, but he is definitely winning all of the swing states. Like, all of the swing states are slightly in his favor.
Well, yes, and even if there's Trump always gets more votes than polling indicates. And that's my it's definitely what happened in 2016. So if a poll shows them even, I think he's the one who's ahead. And although I don't know about polling, they used to call, who answers their phone. I guess they find somebody who answers a phone nowadays. I think that's what it's mostly based on. But they can't scare people with Trump, and they talk more about Trump. I've said to people, make the case for her without mentioning the name Trump.
They can't do it.
No,
they can't do it. Margaret, she did not have a policy page on her website for weeks.
50 days.
How many?
In fact, 50 days.
That's how. But you would only think that would matter in a democratic society, which I'm not so sure that we have.
Well,
I want to take this opportunity for us to take a quick look at this the clip that we have from MSNBC. It's a very interesting one. I think that we'll enjoy and get a kick out of, and feel free to interrupt at any point, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on here. But it's only about 2 minutes, a little bit less. But let's say quickly, this is going to be. I think it's a guy named O'Leary. He's on Shark Tank. He's some, like, rich jerk off that I can't stand, but he even rich jerk offs have something interesting to say every now and then. And this is one of his few times. So let me get this on the screen. Here, this is like a little bit new for me. So, oh no, that's Kamala. Hold on. You don't want Kamala. Get here we go. This is better.
Only 90 days ago, Pelosi went to Biden and said, "You need to step aside," and convinced him to do so. He made the decision, and he did actually ask her, and we've now learned this, is she the right person
He's talking about
to
Biden.
drive this home? He questioned that. He could have said, we need to run a process in order for me to make this move. But they decided not to. I don't know who they is. Was it Obama? Was it Pelosi? I don't care who it was. This is the second time the Democratic Party has circumvented democracy and chose.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
All right, now you hear that the people at the panel on CNN are grumbling already. My grumble is that he says 2 times. So he seems to have forgotten that in 2016 they cheated to get Bernie out of the race. in 2020 they cheated again, even more blatantly, right? Super Tuesday, right, in 2020, where they got all the moderate candidates to drop out, right? And just so that it was just, but what's her name stayed in, the snake.
Tulsi.
Oh, I wish I could remember.
Did you mean Tulsi Gabbard?
No, not Tulsi.
That also.
Oh my God, Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well,
she didn't drop out, right? But they got, Klobuchar and Buttigieg, they got them all out. So I do take offense that he's not. He says only twice, because what he wants to do is he wants to emphasize that they screwed up. That's what he's trying. That's what his point is, that like, oh well, they thought that they were meddling and they were doing the right thing, and so he's trying to make that point. But it's 3 times, it's not 2 times. So, but let's take a listen to the really just, it's an entertaining response from the panelists.
Hillary Clinton was chosen, and she had Bruce Springsteen too. And what happened to her? And now we've chosen.
Kevin, Hillary Clinton won a primary. Okay, she won a primary. You may not.
Nobody could compete with her, even Bernie Sanders.
She won a primary.
Okay.
First of all, that's the first.
So
thing.
did Kamala Harris win a primary?
Listen, we've talked about this before.
What's wrong about talking about it tonight after what you just saw?
Do you think that's really what matters to voters?
Right now.
How many deaths?
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I cannot get over this. Do you think that's really what matters to voters? Look at this woman. Look at her. Oh my God, Margaret, please.
Well, it does matter. It does matter a lot. I mean, they went through the motions of primaries. They would promote one versus another. The people with money would say, we want that one and not that one. So there's all sorts of manipulations in the process. But this is the first time they said, we're going to dispense with the process altogether. We're going to anoint this woman who didn't, as when she ran for president herself, dropped out so she wouldn't be embarrassed by a poor showing in her home state of California, did not win one delegate, not even one. And the fact that she's not running away with it, he's such a weird character. Republicans love him. Most people do not, but if you get a weak candidate, we could see 2016 again, where Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, who actually, I always say this, I think it's important to point out, she promoted him as the person who was going to be easiest to beat. And the media said she was going to win, and the polls showed she was going to win. And then she didn't. And this is somebody who actually went through a primary, who ran twice and defeated Bernie Sanders, although there was a lot of rigging going on. You could make the case she'd been through the process, and she was the choice of Democratic Party voters. You can't say that for Kamala Harris, and it's one of her weaknesses. And yes, it does. It matters to a lot of people. It doesn't matter to the opinion makers that you see on CNN, but it matters to a lot of people, and even people who may not speak of it. I believe it's one of the reasons, an unspoken reason perhaps, that so many people are uneasy about her or not enthusiastic about her. And as much as they can, the most they can muster is, I don't want Trump. So yes, it matters quite a lot.
Absolutely. And, but let's take let's focus on the response of these panelists, right? So it is unbelievable, the outrage that they have at the idea, just even broaching the subject, the topic, the idea that the Democratic Party should engage in a democratic process. Let's listen in on what they have to say about that. This is absolutely hilarious as far as I'm concerned.
Democrats wish.
Your whole shtick has been, let's talk about what matters to voters. Do you really think voters care about the internecine primary process?
If you're a Democrat, you sure as hell care today.
I know that you are from Canada, but the primary process.
That's right. I'm perfect for this. I have no skin in the game other than to get a great president.
It's not in the Constitution. The political parties can choose however they want to choose their nominee.
Right.
And as long as they meet the legal deadlines in the states where they are on the ballot, they can do it however they
Yeah,
want.
but I
They
just,
can
I just want to
decide
be
in December
transparent.
2023.
Yes, I was
They
born
can
in
decide
Canada,
in
but
December 2023
just-
to just handpick somebody.
just to
They don't
be
even have to have a
transparent,
primary.
I was born in
It's just
Canada.
not a
It's a
thing.
democratic party
It's not a
process,
thing.
not a democratic.
No, but my kids were
I'm sorry. I can't wrap my head around this. Like Larry Wilkerson, he's a comedian. There's a reason he's a comedian. He's not a political pundit, but here he is. There's a, it's called the Democratic Party. It's not a democratic process. This is just, it's mind blowing. I know I feel naive, even though I know better. I should not be surprised, and yet I'm still blown away that you have this CNN anchor who is sitting there full-faced on national television saying the Democratic Party doesn't have to care about what you want. Like, it's just, they're doing you a favor, she says.
Yes. Yes, it's the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. We know that you have different ways of putting candidates on ballots in various states. We all know that, but they dispensed with they didn't even have an open convention. It said that Obama wanted an open convention. I don't know how true that is, but they could have said that other people could go to the conventions and delegates could choose. But they said no one was going to choose except the rich donors and the Democratic Party establishment. They made their choice and that was it. And if any voters didn't like it, too bad for you. But it could be too bad for them. And if Trump wins, one of the reasons will be the Democrats had a candidate no one voted for, and they should not be allowed to weasel out of it. I'm sure they'll have some other excuse. Russia did it, or, some, who knows what.
Well, they'll blame us. They'll blame you and me. They'll blame Gaza. Well, this is actually, I have to bring this up now that because we're touching on it. There is a tweet that I just found to be, I found to be really stunningly indicative of the liberal mindset. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
born only.
Yeah, this one. Let me bring this up here. So this is from Abandon Harris. They retweeted this. I definitely would like to kind of touch on Abandon Harris for a little bit at a certain point. But, what this tweet says, our replies and mentions are filled with this kind of vitriol, liberals eager at the thought of Donald Trump deporting minorities simply because they dared to leverage their vote rather than handing it over to the supposedly benevolent Democratic Party. And then you see the quote tweet is, if Donald Trump wins this election, I am going to laugh when Israel completely annihilates Palestine and Arabs in the U.S. start getting hate crimed again. This is just disgusting. It's just grotesque.
But it represents a lot of people who, you could just as easily have said, if Trump wins, I think these things will happen. There are people who say Trump could be even worse for Gaza. I'm not sure how, but you could say that. But just to say I'm going to laugh, if people are murdered, if war crimes continue, if people are victims of hate crime, that is what's going to happen. The Green Party is going to be blamed. Anybody who spoke against the genocide is going to be blamed. There's going to be the usual and it seems that Democrats are never responsible when they lose. It's like, what is this blame business? It's like it's up to you to make your case with the people. And if you don't make it, then you lose. But now it's like it's always someone's fault. It's always, there's always someone to blame. And they're going to blame this idea that Arab Americans should vote for the people dedicated to killing their people. And they should vote for them anyway and just shut up. It's just horrible to me. And it's coming from liberals, the first to virtue signal, the first to think themselves superior, the first to say that Trump supporters are all indoctrinated. They're no more indoctrinated than they are.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, I'm sorry. How much more brainwashed can you be? But that is what we have to look forward to, unfortunately, if Kamala Harris loses.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, Margaret, the thing that is so disturbing to me is that it's not just the need to kind of project blame, but then also this vindictiveness. It reminds me of when the East Palestine train explosion happened. And there were people who were, on social media saying, well, these people voted for Trump, so they got what they deserved. Like the fact that like EPA regulations have been, lightened or something like that, just somehow that they deserve to be, suffer through this tragedy. It's really like, it's not just that they are refusing to take a look at the bigger picture or understand why people might feel a certain way. They're actually like antagonistic to people who disagree with them, people who they consider to be the other. It's a really concerning development that I feel like, oh my goodness. So Margaret, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, this just came to me, and I was excited about asking you this because I wanted to get your take on it. So, we know and have known for a long time that social media is kind of like dedicated to making you upset, right? I mean, they will serve you things. They're intending to serve you, content that is going to evoke emotions out of you. And they like it if you're angry and upset because they know that means you're going to engage, right? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, like, maybe it's not really just social media. What if this is the new model for like institutions like that are like producing any kind of content? Like, I kind of feel like the Democratic Party and just the national news media, CNN, Fox, all of them, it kind of feels like that's what they're all doing. Like, they're just putting out content that they know is going to inflame people and get them upset. Does that make any sense to you? You know what I'm saying?
I think you're right. I think, social media, they create these platforms to keep you addicted. I mean, we've all been there. You like go down this rabbit hole and this huge time suck, and you look up and you're like, have I been on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram all these hours? That's the business model, to keep people engaged because they're angry. Maybe it's a cute puppy, a reel with the cute puppy or a toddler learning to walk. It could be that. It could be politics. It could be any number of things to keep you engaged. And if you're upset, I don't know what it says about us that we're more likely to interact if we're angry.
Yeah.
But yes, that is the model, and it is the political model as well for the Democratic Party to say that we're going to stoke this kind of anger against people who don't vote, people on the left. They're always punching left. They never punch right. Anybody who says I'm going to vote green, anybody who brings up Gaza, anybody who brings up the environment, we're going to make people hate them and convince them that we're their saviors, even when we're not. So in order to do that, yes, you have to lie to people. You have to make them scared. You have to make them angry. You have to make them hateful towards others. So I believe you're right. It's institutionally, politically, the way to go now.
Yeah, I mean, we get a comment from Elsie here. Someone, Elsie, they're the professionals of starting culture wars, and that's
yes, it's like we're supposed to look down on people who don't believe, they're against abortion or they want school prayer or something you don't want, and rather than just see them as people with a difference of opinion, and it depoliticizes. So you don't have any work to do. You don't have any analysis to make. You don't have to organize. You don't have to be critical of this party that you think is the only solution in the universe. You don't have to do any work. All you have to do is think of yourself as being superior. So you can, I've heard you mentioned East Palestine, the train derailment and the poison in the air and the water, but I've seen it with natural disasters. well, they voted red, so, who cares if they don't get any help? Now, it's one thing to criticize the, DeSantis's of the world or these right-wing politicians who on the one hand claim they don't like government spending until they need something. I think it's valid to talk about them when their people need help. Then suddenly government spending is not this evil thing. I think it's fine to point that out.
Agreed.
But to lose all empathy, to have no empathy, to be angry with people who are suffering under this system, which makes all of us suffer in some way or another, and to take a side against them, rather than to have the human response of empathy, of concern, of care, and then say, this is why we need X, or this is why I'm in favor of or opposed to, or something like that. But yes, that is now how society is being programmed to be.
No, I like what you said. I like the idea of just like, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is hate. All you have to do is just hate that person.
Hate and be superior.
Yeah. Liberals are very. I noticed that's something that I really noticed about liberals. They're really good at talking down to people. They love.
Oh, absolutely.
They love being
absolutely.
superior.
It's not enough to have a point of view or to be able to defend it. You're the better, smarter, more deserving, more enlightened person. And it keeps you, and it's difficult to struggle with people. It's difficult to struggle with people who don't agree with you about something. And I'm not saying that's always the answer, but sometimes just on a human level, you have to, just with this I don't know if you've been through, people very dear to you. It was like when Obama first ran in 2008, it was horrible being a Black person who didn't like Obama. It was just like its own special little hell. Friends, family who loved him. They didn't understand why you didn't love him. I thought I would never go through anything like that again. Here I am again, telling people, no, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm voting green.
Oh my God. The vitriol is just stunning. I mean, I was blown away. I mean, like I like people just came for me. Facebook is the worst. Like I can post anything I want on Twitter and nobody gives a crap. But like, oh my God, I post something about like the election on Facebook, and oh my God, I'm like, I had no idea that all my friends were liberals. Oh my God, I thought I was an anarchist when I was a kid.
Well, Facebook is different because you also interact with people, family and friends. Twitter's more anonymous, because I don't have people I'm closely connected to who follow me on Twitter, but I actually have 2 Facebook accounts. I did it once for a more logical reason. When before I retired, I was still working. I didn't want to use my own name in posting, but then I was happy because I had this, friends and cousins and siblings account.
Right. So you could just put like, hey, I'm on vacation, and then you wouldn't have to worry about like, how dare you say that about Obama?
I know. So it's very difficult, but turning people against each other, it could be people you don't know, it could be people you know and love. It can be very, very difficult in a country where we are not encouraged to be thoughtful. We're not encouraged to provide analysis. We're discouraged. It's like, and with politics, what are we told every 4 years? You have to vote, you have to vote, you have to vote. Okay, I'm not going to, although people don't vote, I don't argue with them about their choice. But there's nothing else we can do. We're not encouraged to do anything else politically except vote. And vote every 4 years when
and hate now. That's the other the other political move. Hate.
Vote and hate when actually local elections, state elections actually can have more impact on our lives. And there are millions of people who only vote every 4 years. And so you have these state legislatures that don't represent anybody because only a handful of people vote. And then there's gerrymandering and whatever. But, you're not even encouraged to take part in electoral activity that really has more control over your life. So this fetishized electoral system, it's very strange. It's only this election. It's only, the 4-year elections. Otherwise, you're not supposed to care. And you're supposed to vote in this way or that way. You're not supposed to look left or right. You're not supposed to consider anyone not in the duopoly. If you do, there's something wrong with you. You hate the system. You love Trump.
Margaret, this one, it feels different for some reason, because like I'm seeing people who I know better, like they know better, and they're still like, I have to do it. Like I feel like it's so weird to see it. Like they're just like, I know God, I like genocide is horrible, but I just have to vote for Kamala because it's going to be somehow, I don't know how, but it's going to be better. Like I'm the kind of wish casting, the pretzels that people turn themselves into to be able to justify this. I mean, and again, like I said, I mean, people who I'm shocked and stunned, the people who I know better and who are compassionate, caring people, and yet they're still, and I feel like do you know what I'm saying when I feel like it's just we're selling our souls? Like I feel like there's a practical element to this, that like, kind of conceding this ground to the Democrats is a broader mistake. Like it is a strategic mistake in some different ways and practical ways, like logistically, whatever, right? But just on a personal level, I feel like it is hurting people. It's damaging people who see what's happening in Gaza, and they feel like they've been convinced, that these people, that like this Trump person is literally going to be Hitler. It's like, yeah. I
was going to say the Trump is the problem there. I think Trump's victory in 2016 was a trauma that I think many people have never gotten over. This man who wasn't supposed to win, the accidental candidate, this is something that cracks me up. He didn't even think he was going to get the nomination. He was, in typical Trumpy, it's very funny to me, Trumpian fashion. He was going to run and come in like second, and he'd get some deal to buy a network, some kind of fantastical thing that was never going to happen anyway. Lo and behold, neither he nor the Republican Party, they didn't know their own people. And they did not understand his appeal. And nobody saw him getting the nomination or then winning. So he's this accidental candidate, the candidate who was supposed to win, the smart, Ivy League graduate, lost to the failed businessman and con artist. And people never got over it. I remember in 2020, after when they announced Biden had the 270 electoral votes, and people were partying in the streets. Here in New York, people had these impromptu celebrations because Trump was gone. But then he wouldn't go away, and they tried, all these trials and whatnot
They tried so hard.
Some of them were, I think the first case in New York was bogus. I believe it was. Most presidents, even the documents case, where in typical Trumpian fashion, he just said, I don't want to give up these documents. I'm taking them to Florida. So, most presidents, they would have just said, never mind, let it go. But they thought they were going to get rid of him. But
yeah, Mark, you got to work on your Trump accent a little bit better. But yeah, no, I'm just going to take these. Yeah, total Trump attitude. But I do want to riff off of that, because one of the things that we've been talking about is the unwillingness to assess right what the responsibility of the Democratic Party in themselves and the actions of the politicians that represent the Democratic Party to have the way that they have failed the American public, as the reason that there was a first term presidency, right? That's why it was so surprising, so shocking, was because they were not, and they still do not. They still refuse. It's like you said it. You said the word trauma, and I do. I think it was a trauma to the institutions, those political institutions, when Trump won, you really see like this. There is a shift. I want to bring up the clip that we have of Obama talking about abortion in a second. But before I go to that, I do want to touch on this idea, this idea of traumatizing, like the institutionalists, the elite, right? That these people at the top of the political food chain were traumatized by what happened. And I do feel like it broke them in a certain sense, because I feel like what Trump represented to them was the unchecked democracy, basically, like the masses. Like something broke in them where they were just like, the masses cannot be trusted. And that's when you started, like, because I had never heard of this. Where did this misinformation word come from? Right? All of a sudden, misinformation's everywhere. Trump turns into Hitler. It's like, everybody who votes for him is a racist. It's like, okay, guys, like, please, can we tone it down a little bit? But no, it's like they doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down. Russiagate happened. It's like, all they could do was lie about this guy. He's bad enough as he is. He's bad enough as he is. His policies are bad enough. You don't have to make stuff up about him. But that was the thing. It's like I really do think that the elite in this country, the people with money, like the political leaders, there's something happened to them where they were like, we cannot trust the American public, or the public in general, like the global public, with democracy. I really do. I think that's why you're seeing crackdowns and more censorship of social media, and like just a real embrace of it. Like, I don't have any clips, unfortunately, for today, and I wish I did, but there's plenty of them out there with like, like all sorts of like Democratic, representatives just like talking about how we need to like, clamp down more on the internet, less freedom of speech. It's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. People who otherwise, before Trump, believed in civil liberties, believed in freedom of speech, believed that even people they didn't agree with had the right to speak. Now they want to clamp down on everybody because there's this lack of trust in the system. But lack of trust in the system caused Trump to win. He campaigned. Now, he's not who he said he was. What did he do for the working class when he was president? Nothing. Did he stop wars? No, he didn't stop any wars. The military budget went up. He says, if I'm president again, I'm gonna help Israel more. So he's not what he said, but he gave people the impression that he was going to be different. And this was 8 years after the collapse of the market. People lost their homes, people lost their jobs, or they're still working, but gig work, but not the way, living as well as they used to. And so it was a moment that was ripe for someone to come from the outside and be able to say something to get more support than people thought. And what did he talk about? He talked about jobs going overseas. That's a huge issue. It's huge, a legitimate issue.
Huge issue, absolutely.
It was deindustrialized by finance capital. Now, it's not going to change, but the fact that he brought it up it's not surprising to me that millions of people voted for him because of it. I'm a Midwesterner by birth from Ohio, and the deindustrialization, it just gets worse and worse, and so much, and then it trickles down to so many aspects of huge swaths of the country. But we're not supposed to talk about it. We're supposed to, because those are the people who run the Democratic Party. The Democrats raise more money. Again, this year, Kamala Harris has raised more money than Donald Trump. $1 billion. But every year, it's the Democrats who raise more money than the Republicans.
Margaret, this is what I don't understand. This is why I don't understand why the American left is so, ineffective. So limp. Because the organizing seems to be so. It's like low-hanging fruit. It's like, the Democrats have all they've been doing for the past 30 years is just hollowing out the country, and resting on identity politics. And there's and here now you have immigration as being like this huge topic, but if you're not going to talk about the deindustrialization of the country, right, and the lack of factory jobs and like, you know, well-paying factory jobs that like regular people could just kind of like, you know, you didn't need a college degree, you could just make a, you know, support a family, have a home and stuff like that. You didn't, like, if we're not going to address that, and we're not going to talk about how immigrants coming in, then lower wages, like for low skilled jobs. You're not going to talk about that. It becomes about this identity stuff where it's just like, oh, you know, immigrants are gross and they're criminals and blah blah blah. It's like, but there's a very real economic element to like the antagonism there that is not discussed. It's not talked about. And why, I would argue, is because both parties don't want to talk about it, right? I mean, like, neither want to talk about it.
No, they don't. And there's another element to immigration. Nobody wants to talk about the connection with US foreign policy. Why are people leaving Venezuela? Because the US has destroyed Venezuela's economy with its sanctions for years. They have just an oil producing country can't sell its oil. The US has sanctioned 1/3 of the countries on earth and made them unlivable. So you can't say, why are these Venezuelans coming here? Because it's a bipartisan consensus to destroy that country because it dared to be socialist and exist in this hemisphere. How do you talk about it and not talk about people coming from other countries that are sanctioned, Cuba and Nicaragua, or the disruptions in, I read a statistic once, it's 35 million people displaced by wars in Western Asia since 9/11, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, all of these countries that have been destroyed by the US. What happens? People leave. And then, you know, people want to talk about how they shouldn't be here. Well, you know, they didn't want to leave their homes either. But it's the US that forced them into it. And that's also true in Europe as well. People are upset about refugees who would, if they didn't, you know, join the US in these imperial adventures, would still be in their homes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
You know,
these are the things that nobody talks about. And it's, and all, as we've been discussing, it's bipartisan. There haven't been any Democrats to say the US shouldn't be sanctioning Venezuela, or to say, and also it's racist. The US has admitted as many Ukrainians as Venezuelans, but you don't hear anything about them. Why? Because they're Europeans.
Speaking of bipartisanship, let's real quick just come back to the foibles of the Harris campaign. So we have here I've got a tweet here from Zinab Day, probably mispronounced that, but you know, a billboard in Michigan that is a picture of, it's basically Harris, Kamala loves Liz, basically. Harris hearts Cheney, and it says Harris pro-war, Cheney pro, well, just fill in the horrible blank. But again, to this bipartisanship idea, this like crappy foreign policy that people refuse to address, to deal with, to talk about, and here you have it. I mean, like, this is really, I feel like even people who are Democratic partisans are realizing what insanity this appears to be. And I am curious, Margaret, to what you think that they're thinking, right? Like didn't the Democrats spend literally like a decade talking about the evils of George W. Bush and Dick Cheney?
Of course.
What is going on here?
It's well, it's just because Cheney's an anti-Trump. Although Republicans hate her, she lost. Not only did she lose her House seat, but by a record-breaking margin. I don't know. I think they believe their own hype about the never Trumper Republicans. There are like 4 or 5 of them. Okay, there aren't a lot of people in that category. And meanwhile, she guarantees victory by bringing out Democrats. And she talks about, I'm going to have a Republican in my cabinet. I'm going to have a bipartisan advisory board. I'm hanging out with Liz Cheney again. She's still doing it. This Trump rally that was in Madison Square Garden, I think that was a gift to Kamala Harris. I think the Trump people made a mistake of, this is what happens when you stay in your own bubble, you know. So they decide to have this rally, not in, some mid-sized city, but in Madison Square Garden in New York City. So everybody's paying attention. You got a guy saying Puerto Rico's a pile of trash, and Giuliani, who's crazy, saying Palestinian 2-year-olds are out to kill us, and Kamala Harris wants to bring them into the country. I think it was a mistake on their part, because there's a group of voters nobody talks about, and I call them the low motivation voters, people who have they lean Republican or Democrat, but they don't feel like voting's important. And I think something like that, it reminds people, oh, I don't like Trump. I think he's a racist piece of crap. That kind of thing. It's something I would think she could capitalize on, because these came out of the words out of their own mouths. But what is she doing on Twitter? Me and Liz Cheney, Republicans and independents and Democrats will work to elect me. This is such a loser. And I don't know where these Democratic Party consultants come from. They make a fortune. These are the same people who Hillary Clinton listened to, or people of that type. But and they want to get mad and say there's something wrong with that billboard. I'm like, this is something she's been talking about herself. So I don't know how you can be mad at somebody else for quoting her. But again, that goes back to what we said. These are people who don't want to hear from us. They, how dare you point out that there was no primary? How dare you point out that Kamala Harris has been having this love fest with Liz Cheney?
It's like nonstop gaslighting. Right?
Yes, it
nonstop.
is.
Like it's just it does really stretch. It's like really challenges credulity when you think that here you have the vice president who is trying to pretend as if she's not actually in office, right? She's like promising all these things, like, just wait until I'm elected, we're gonna do all these amazing things. And it's like, you're in office right now. Did I miss something? Because you're in office, you could do stuff and you're not doing it. But okay, whatever. So she's given this whole like I can't do it, and then and then they're just like being like, oh, you have amnesia because we didn't say anything bad about the Cheneys, right? I mean, hey, Dick Cheney, he endorsed us, and that's great. It's like the intellectual disconnect that I'm seeing from I mentioned earlier, it's like these people who I know are smart people. I know they're smart. I know they're not stupid, and I know they're caring people, and they are still like what they're doing to themselves by having to eat this shit that they're being served. It's really hard for me to appreciate. But speaking of that, I would like to kind of like bring up a really, I think very telling clip of Obama, and what he's doing is he is talking about how he's going to codify Roe v. Wade, and so
go ahead.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. I think the audio might be up. Let me see. Can you tell me if you can hear this?
No, can't hear it.
You can't hear it? Okay. Yeah, let me I have to reshare this. Hold on. But I think what I like about this particular clip is that it really goes to what we were saying as far as like just this idea of gaslighting and of like, if people have a problem, it's on them. It's not on the candidates. It's not on the campaigns.
And people who defend that, that's my post on Twitter.
It is.
Michelle Obama gave this, great stem winder of a speech about reproductive rights and tell your man to protect women. And I was like, did she tell her man to protect women? In 2008, he campaigned saying he would codify Roe. That clip, he was a press conference he gave after 90 days in office, and he said, it's not my highest priority.
Let's see if we can get the audio here.
The Freedom of Choice Act is not my highest legislative priority. I believe that women should have the right to choose, but I think that the most important thing we can do to tamp down some of the anger surrounding this issue is to focus on those areas that we can agree on, and that's where.
Unbelievable, just unbelievable. And then here you have, in 2008. So it's been almost 20 years, right? And here we go, let's just call it 15 years later. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to play all this, we're just going to hear a little bit of Michelle excoriating folks, but especially men in particular. This is very interesting.
So let me take a minute to help folks, especially the men in our lives, to get a better sense of what could happen if we keep dismantling parts of our reproductive care system piece by piece, as Trump intends to do. I want folks to understand the chilling effect, not just on critical abortion care, but on the entirety of women's health, all of it. There are good reasons why so many women and physicians are horrified by what's happened since Donald Trump's justices overturned Roe v. Wade. We're seeing women scrambling across state lines to get the care.
All right, I'm sorry. I don't need to hear her basically fundraise and vote raise over the bodies of women who have basically are essentially victims of her husband's unwillingness to actually act. Right.
And, after I posted this, I got a lot of reposts. I was surprised. But then I got these people, well, he couldn't do it because he didn't have a veto-proof majority in the Senate. He did. Or, well, okay, he did, but he had spent so much political capital on Obamacare, he didn't have anything left. And I'm saying, so he lied. You mean to tell me this smart man, whatever else you want to say about Obama, he's no fool, who was in the Senate, didn't know how the Senate worked? So he lied. That means Kamala Harris is lying about making abortion rights a priority when she's president. So first of all, unless there's Democratic control of both houses, it cannot happen. It's not going to happen. And even if there is there going to be some other issue that is a higher priority that she's spending political capital on? Will there be a parliamentarian saying you can't really do it? They lie. They say they know. This is the insidious thing. They know what people want. Most Americans want abortion to be legal. They know that. And they fundraise off of it and fearmonger off of it, but they do not care. It is of no importance to them. None. Nancy Pelosi, a couple of years around this time, actually, a few years later, she was like, oh, abortion is not such a big issue anymore.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's not something we should emphasize anymore. They do not care. And they're doing it again. And people are justifying voting for Harris despite the genocide. They're saying, well, we have to have abortion rights here. So people are defending genocide in order to get abortion protections, which in all likelihood are not going to happen anyway.
I have to play this, Margaret. I just have to. It's so disturbing, but I really need us to watch this. And this is Kamala on Anderson Cooper town hall, and it is just brutal. Can you hear it? Do you have the audio?
You're not playing it. No, I can't hear it.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Let me reshare. Hopefully it'll take care of it. But yeah, this clip here is just stunning. Let's hope that we get the audio on this one.
Staying on the couch, not voting at all because of this issue.
Listen, I am not going to deny the strong feelings that people have. I don't know that anyone who has seen the images
Vibes, all vibes,
who would not have strong feelings about what has happened, much less those who have relatives who have died and been killed. And I know people and have talked with people. So I appreciate that. But I also do know that for many people who care about this issue, they also care about bringing down the price of groceries. They also care about our democracy and not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist. They also care about the fact that we need practical, common sense solutions from a leader who is willing to work across the aisle.
I can't take it. Margaret, I can't take it.
Well, you know, I responded to that. I think to Sabby Sab's post, I said, we're not going to get lower grocery prices either. They're going to keep killing people, and inflation is going to remain high. So it's like a bad deal, a stupid answer, a callous answer, and it isn't even going to happen. And you're right, it is all vibes. Yes, I feel there's too many Palestinians have died, as if there's a number that's okay.
Right.
You know, so she talks out of both sides of her mouth, pretending to express some kind of sympathy. But then she says, no, there's not going to be any arms embargo against Israel, which means the killing will go on. And so she tried to deflect from those people who quite rightly don't want a genocide by saying, I might lower the price of your groceries.
Well, it's another thing you're concerned about. You know, it's just another thing.
Yeah.
You know, just like, oh, like gas prices are too high. Gas prices are too high. You know, corn on the cob is too high, and you know we're basically funding a genocide, murdering like tens of thousands of children. Like same thing, all the same thing.
Yes, it is. It is all the same thing because she can't defend it. You know, vice presidents, when they run, they typically have this problem where they've served with the president. They're trying to, in some way, make themselves different when in fact they have to, you know, work for this boss that they have. So that's not unusual, but it's very difficult when you're the president that you've served with has committed himself to war crimes and genocide. Then you have a very big problem. And she's not even, I think someone who's a better politician might at least lie about it or try to come up with some kind of answer, but she doesn't have that in her. Plus, she doesn't have any real convictions. Plus, all the people in the Democratic Party, they're all, you don't have a job in the Democratic Party or a Democratic presidential campaign if you're not a Zionist. So all of these things have combined for her to, you know, have this horrible answer. But that's how she really feels about it. You know, I might lower your groceries. You'll pay less for eggs. And so, you know.
So if that sounds good, then, hey, you know, look the other way when we're like blowing up people's schools and mosques and universities.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you're not feeling well. But you know, the thing is that I've enjoyed talking to you very much, and I'm so happy to be able to take advantage of David not being around, so I get to actually talk to you. But you know, I do want to touch on a little bit of, like, I would love to hear from you about what you're thinking about the post-election, right? I mean, like, what do you see? You know, I guess it's kind of a two-part question or topic, right? It's like, on the one hand, what do you see happening, like, in the country after this election, one way or the other? But also the second part is kind of like, what do you, like, from your, you know, your experience and your wisdom, what do you kind of take as, like, this is the way that we should be thinking about organizing, or just where our attention or energy should be after the election?
We're going to have to struggle no matter who wins. We may have to struggle over different things, But we cannot exist in this country and in the world without struggling against the duopoly, against capitalism, against imperialism. Our lives depend on it. The Democrats talk a good game on the environment, but she brags about fracking. The Biden administration had more drilling on federal lands than Trump did. The temperature keeps rising. They're not addressing it. They are, playing games with nuclear nations, with Russia and China, instigating conflicts with them. We have to organize. We don't have a choice. We just don't. And we have to organize inside and outside of the electoral system. There's no other way for us to live. And that means a lot of different things. But in a nutshell, I think that's it. And people should not see it as a burden. It's just what we have to do. It's what we have to do to live. If we don't do it, our lives are at stake. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. Our survival is at stake if we don't work to change this system.
Yeah, and I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, and I think that you're spot on, and I think it is really important. I mean, I'm incredibly concerned about environmental issues. I think it's stunning how little consideration it gets, and how little serious consideration it gets. Right. So I'm going to bring up real quick. You have here what I'm showing is, it's a retweet from Brianna Joy Gray where she's subtweeting a Sunrise Movement, who I'll be honest with you. I mean, when I saw the Sunrise Movement first, I think probably one of the first times was when AOC was standing with them outside of Pelosi's office, and they were like having a sit down protest, and it was like, that's cool, cool, direct action, right? I mean, doing stuff. And here you have them endorsing, along with so many other environmental organizations, endorsing Kamala. And I have another video here that let me just share this real quick because it's pretty quick. But it's
in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes.
Unbelievable.
Well, fossil fuel production is more death. It's a higher temperature. We are seeing it in hurricanes. We are seeing water dry up. There are places in the world that the water supply is disappearing. We've got to get rid of these people. And she said it herself. And it's the Sunrise Movement, these environmental groups, they're just part of the Democratic Party to tell you, to lie to you, and say to vote for this person is the way to save the climate. It's just disgusting. And we have to fight against them too. These phony progressives, these phony environmentalists, we've got to get rid of them all.
Well, I mean, that's really one of the reasons why I am really happy and proud to be a part of this, the People's Movement for Land and Liberation, the work that, you and that David have been doing to be able to, the stuff that Kali Akuno is doing with Cooperation Jackson and Cooperation Vermont and the rest. I just think it's really so important that we are, focusing on practical solutions, practical alternatives to what we're being offered, because it's really just, it's unsustainable. It's killing us, like you said, and it can't continue. And so, I do have hope for the ability for us to work together and organize and really organize an alternative. I think it's there. I think it's out there. I'm not going to lie, seeing this kind of response from regular people during this election season has been just brutal. It's really hard, Margaret. It's wearing on me. Yeah.
It is. It's wearing on all of us. And, these are some of the people we will have to fight against. But we can't leave it to them because those people have already betrayed us. They'll keep betraying us. And some of them might be your friends or your siblings or your cousins. And I'm not telling you not to go to their dinner party or their cookout anymore, but you've got to speak truth. And we have got to, our survival depends on ending this system and creating the kind of world that we want. It is possible if we fight.
We are unstoppable. Another world is possible.
Yes.
All right, Margaret, I cannot tell you how happy I am to have gotten the opportunity to speak with you this hour. It's been really a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to having you on again. And good luck with everything. I hope you're feeling better soon. Is there anything in particular you'd like to kind of share with folks before we
Yes. Every Wednesday is Black Agenda Report Day. blackagendareport.com. We have a new issue every Wednesday, and we have Black Agenda Radio on Friday. You can find me on Twitter at Freedom Ride Blog. I'm on Blue Sky, Margaret Kimberley. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you. Be well. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us today on Redneck Gone Green. I love that you are here. I'm so glad all the work that you're doing to make this a better world. I'm really happy to be in the fight with you. Y'all take care, be well, and talk to you soon. See you next week, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Pacific. Take care.